All right.
Whenever you text me, I don't
We
even know. I
will
seen it
call this
morning.
meeting of the East Lansing Board of Education to order.
Why did it take so long to get
It is 7 p.m. Ms. Hogart, could I have a roll call, please?
He's going to our family soon.
Dr. Chambers.
Present.
Dr. Edsel.
Here.
Ms. Fink.
Here.
Dr. Lyons.
Here.
Ms. Powers.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Ms. Walton.
Here.
Student Representative Benavides. Ms. Mulak is absent. And Ms. Lako. Here.
Thank you. Trustee Lyons, could you read the mission statement, please?
Yep, the East Lansing East Lansing School mission statement is nurturing each child, educating all students, building world citizens.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the November 28th, 2022 regular meeting as presented.
Moved by trustee Walton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Lyons. Are there any additions to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Could I have a motion to approve the November 14th, 2022 minutes as presented?
I move the Board of Education approve the minutes of the November 14th, 2022 regular meeting as presented.
Second?
By trustee Edsel, second by trustee Martin. Were there any corrections to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We will move on to trustee Martin and recognition.
Thank you. Lots of recognition. It's that time of year where everybody's very busy. First off, congratulations to Dave Larzalier for winning the Top of the Town Award for Best High School Teacher in the Greater Lansing area. I know he works incredibly hard, and that's great recognition for him, and nice to see him recognized by the City Pulse. We'd like to thank Ashley, Aline, Karen Bennell, and all the volunteers who put on math nights at the elementary schools throughout the district. And there were a number of our student volunteers from the high school who also appeared for those. And so thank you, because I know that's a lot of hard work. And the reviews from my third grader were incredibly positive. We had a number of students from the 7th and 8th grade bands and orchestra perform at Bircham Hills, which was a very nice thing to do. So thank you to all the students who participated in that. Our Science Olympiad team had a competition in Saline. I'm not from here.
I'm not from here either, but I know it's Celine.
Saline, and won first place.
Salty City.
Congratulations to everybody who competed in Saline on behalf of our Science Olympiad team. There were a number of all-state musicians selected from the high school. Congratulations to those students who were recognized as all-state band: Johnny Bennell, Skylar Hamlin. Annie Walton was named first chair trumpet. And from the orchestra, Dana Hardy and Seema. It's fine. Another student. So congratulations to those students, and congratulations. And we recognize the hard work that goes into that kind of a recognition. We also had the Lansing Symphony Orchestra side-by-side program. Johnny Bennell and Annie Walton will perform with the Lansing Symphony Orchestra this year for their Holiday Pops concert. Kind of an interesting thing to do, so that sounds like a lot of fun. And we want to recognize the cast and crew that put on the performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream. They wrapped up a fantastic 1970s version of the Shakespeare classic. So congrats to all those students, and yeah, that's a very cool thing.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Martin or any other recognition this evening? Okay, we'll move on to the student representative report. Mr. Benavides.
Hi, everyone. I'm the student representative, Gabe Benavides. I'd also like to say congratulations to everyone. And I'd also like to add one more. Gwen Petrie, she got 9th in Division II states for dive, which is very good. And also, we have an upcoming musical audition. Well, that's in the spring, but auditions are opening up. And I'd also like to thank Alex Smith, our theater teacher, for putting all that on for us. And that went really well. And we have upcoming winter sports, basketball, boys swim and dive, things like that. So I'm excited. Me and my peers and I are also excited for Flocky to start up. And I'd also like to shout out to Bully Tutors again. My friend Ali Alamari, he puts on tutoring for middle schoolers and underclassmen in the high school by upperclassmen, and it's all free. If you'd like to email him, ali.alamari@stu.eops.us for that information. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Benavides? Thank you. Appreciate the report. And we'll turn it over to Ms. Lako for the superintendent's report.
Yep, I have just one item I want to share tonight as a follow-up to couple meetings ago. I shared about school safety grants, the Section 97 grants and 31 AA grants that are available for both school safety and student and staff wellness and mental health. And our the 97D grants were the ones that were for school safety assessments that we applied for. We still haven't heard anything back on those grants yet, but we did go ahead and schedule those safety assessments, and they'll be folks will be here in the district from Secure Educational Consultants for the next 3 days. So tomorrow we have our high school and middle school walkthrough, along with a district level interview with our cabinet and a few other members of the district. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, Wednesday is 3 of the elementary buildings, Thursday is the other 3 elementary buildings, and then we'll get feedback and strengths and suggestions back from these audits. And there is also at the high school, there's a school safety work group as part of our professional learning communities and our professional learning days that we have throughout the school year. And so I met with that school safety group at our last PD day, November 11th. And so there's a representative from the high school team that will be accompanying us on the walkthrough so that they can just be involved with what's going on and what kind of questions are being asked. And then another member of that team is going to sit in on the district interview too, so that we are getting some involvement and feedback from the folks who are interested in working on and giving some input on school safety here at the high school. They have a work group that was driven by teachers around school safety, so that's why there is one of those here, because they have multiple work groups, more than the other buildings, just due to staff size. So we'll be looking forward to getting those reports back and determining our next steps once we see those.
Very good. Are there questions for the superintendent?
I should also add, ELPD is accompanying one of our walkthroughs too, so they are just familiar with what's going on and providing any input and feedback as well.
So when we're talking safety, are we just simply talking physical safety from outside threats? Are we talking mental health? Are we talking physical health? Are we talking
Yes.
all of the above? Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Yep. And I've part of the district interview, and I've had the opportunity before we committed to this consulting group to talk with the owner about our community and our school community, and kind of how we choose to allocate our resources more around prevention and providing resources in the terms of personnel for students, so that both A, we can connect with more students, and B, providing more people that students are connected to and may report something should they hear something. So while I fully expect to get some feedback on our lack of secure entrance, for example, at the high school, in terms of structures, they'll also look at our emergency procedures, policies, and through the interview tomorrow, we'll really want to learn more about what we value and around school safety and student and staff health and wellness as a district, because they assured me it's not like a box checking. You don't have this. This is what you should do, in terms of their return report, but they want to tailor it to what we actually are interested in and value and what we might do and what we have the financial means to be able to do as well, so that it would be specific and individualized. So should have more information at our next meeting about how those went, because tomorrow will be our first one.
I have a quick question. Do they talk to any student representatives at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can tell you afterwards, but I don't know that yet. Yes.
I have a question then about the grant dollars. So would those then be utilized to implement some of the things that come up in the assessment? Is that the plan?
That would be my expectation, is that we'll take the recommendations from these plans, look at what they're recommending, get input from our stakeholders inside our district and community. And then once we have an allocation of the actual Section 97, so this is 97D, but there's actual Section 97 per pupil allocation funds that have allowable expenses that are pretty broad. Just there's some specific ones, but then there's one that's kind of an umbrella of anything to improve or maintain the safety and security of, your students at school and staff, that we would use those funds along with the 31AA mental health funds for staff and students to address some of the recommendations that we're able to get from these assessments.
Excellent. Other questions for the superintendent?
I have a question about the report from 2 weeks ago. I know you had mentioned that the fencing was going to start at Donley in mid-November, and I was just wondering if there was any update on what might be holding that up a little bit.
We have not had another meeting, so I'll have to follow up with our construction folks. I do not know.
Very good. Anything else for the superintendent this evening? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move the Board of Education approves the consent agenda to include the following: hiring of Heather Loonsberry, 1.0 FTE high school special education teacher at MA Step 17, effective November 29th, 2022.
Second.
Moved by trustee Etzel, seconded by trustee Martin. I will remind you there is no discussion on the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
6-1, motion carries. It is now the time for public comment. This is the opportunity to address the board. Speakers are to confine their remarks to 5 minutes. If a speaker requires more than 5 minutes after all other persons who have requested to speak during this part of the meeting have spoken, that speaker will be allowed additional time. The superintendent or other district staff may comment to clear up or avoid significant misunderstandings. We have, I'm so sorry, Benjamin Cook, is that correct? Who would like to speak regarding interest in boys volleyball? Nope, you got to come to the podium, I'm sorry.
Hi, I was just, a few of my friends have been wondering and just been interested in a boys volleyball team here at the school, and we were just wondering what it would take to make that happen.
Have you talked to the athletic director or your high school administrators?
We have not, no.
Those would be your
That's
first
where you'd
steps.
start.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
That's all then.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment this evening? Okay. We have no action items this evening, so we'll move on to committee reports. Academic and Technology Committee,
We did not meet.
Facilities,
No report.
Finance.
Well, Rich is not here, so I can say anything I want.
That's right.
Those are they can stay home.
That was good.
Yeah.
We actually had a fairly robust agenda at our November 17th meeting. We discussed the unaudited enrollment count from October 5th, and we've actually, it appears to added 90 students, and we've seen an increase in resident enrollment. I was looking for the actual number. If my math is correct, that's like $800,000, which is a plus. I couldn't see what Rich had given us. We discussed the semester class size overage stipends. And these are when, teachers are teaching more kids than the contract allows. Most of those were at the middle school and high school, as they are in most years, and the numbers are similar to past years. We are looking at 2 hirings. One is a replacement for Mike, who's been retiring, and the new position will be the Director of Operations and Maintenance, and then a personal administrative assistant to Relisha. We discussed some general fund interest earnings, which were significant. Rich had moved some money into a higher interest-bearing account, and so far it's earned about $118,000. So that's another plus to revenue. Then there was a couple of negatives in the adjustments to the Meridian Township property values, so that had to be corrected for, and to the Graduation Alliance appropriation deduct. Those together were a decrease of about $240,000. This is all from the budget we approved earlier this year. So that is the summation for Finance Committee.
Very good.
Other than I thought Rich was coaching Penn State when I looked there really briefly the other night, but I don't think that, I took a longer look and I don't think it was him.
He didn't get a second job.
I was
As-
worried. And when I didn't see him here.
We did a second round for the Director of Operations and Maintenance today.
Okay.
We
Great.
should have a candidate recommendation to bring to the next board meeting.
Very good.
Because I'm not sure if I mentioned, Mike is retiring at the end of the year.
Yeah, he's going to stay till March.
Oh, till March, okay.
There's some overlap with the new individual.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a position that has had some longevity to it, right? Before Mike,
Correct.
it
That whole
was.
department.
30
Yeah.
years.
That department, but yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And Tapo's probably been there longer than Mike, hasn't he?
Ah,
I think he's more than 30 years.
yes,
He is.
you're right.
We honored that this fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Okay. Intergovernmental relations.
No report.
Personnel Committee is scheduled to meet on the 7th of December at 1 o'clock in this room. And Policy Committee.
We met, and if you had a chance to look at items of information, there are a number of policies from Troon that are almost all minor edits that we need to approve as a board. And so I wanted to get that done before the end of the year. There are some pretty broad changes, but they're could be summarized as things that removed because we're no longer under COVID policies. So mask policies and virtual meetings and so forth have all been removed. There's one policy we're still working on, which is therapy dogs, because they made some pretty significant changes to the therapy dog policy, and we're trying to make sure it aligns with our Canines for Change. And so that will come up at a later date. But if you look through those, you'll see a huge majority of them are a word change here, a word change there. The ones that were related to finance, Rich looked over. Dory looked over some that had something to do with superintendents. And the rest we've all had a chance to go, the policy committee went through. If you have any questions, just give me a call. And otherwise, we will be voting on those updates next meeting.
Very good. Are there any announcements this evening?
Oh, I just wanted to say, in the last meeting, Superintendent Lako, in your report, you congratulated Kath and I on the 2 new people joining the board in January, and I was a little bit caught off guard. But I wanted to say that during the campaign, like when people hear that you're running for school board, a lot of times, especially in this political climate, there's a lot of like, oh, how is that? Like, how is that going? But I'm really pleased to say that in our community during the campaign, and I think kind of in general, it hasn't been like that in our community. And I really just want to appreciate all of the candidates who ran, but also our broader community for just a really open, thoughtful, political campaign, especially around school boards. And that's not something that I take for granted because it is not that way everywhere. So it's a kudos. Yeah, even in our surrounding area. So, per usual, I feel lucky to live here.
Thank you, Trustee Chambers. Any other announcements this evening? All right.
Is there only one meeting in December? Is that correct?
There is.
Okay.
Yes.
Counting down those.
Not counting anything down. I'm just scheduling.
If there is no further business of the board, we will stand adjourned at 7:19 p.m.
Thank you.